Not sure if many of you know, but we do have a virtual tier within the Design Coven virtual pro member tier, which includes 3 virtual meetings a month where we set intentions. We do group coaching. So bring all your questions. We answer those questions and you get to learn from other people going through the same struggles as you. We also do a business practice meeting. So we'll have somebody on to share a business practice that we can all benefit from. And then we also do a product training. So getting a sustainable, eco-friendly line to come on, share who they are so that we can be supported with other like-minded businesses. And if you're not quite ready for pro, you can always join our free community where you will connect with other like-minded holistic interior designers. You don't have to be an interior designer if you are kind of just dabbling or you're aspiring or you're looking into this field. We invite everybody from all journeys, and you don't, again, have to be a designer. You don't have to have a degree. We're just a beautiful community of like-minded people looking to create healing spaces, not just for ourselves, but for our clients and future clients. Come join us at designcoven.com/join. Hey, we're on episode 56 in our mini series with San Diego Design Week 2022, exploring the theme of inspiration through the senses. And today we are exploring that theme with smell. I've got Amy back on. She was on episode 4, I believe, and we're discovering what she does with smell and her tea. Amy has family ties in France, Japan, and Vietnam. She has developed a love for fine teas and tinsays early in her childhood. She was inspired by her entrepreneurial grandfathers who established businesses in the United States and abroad. After earning a degree in international business from UC Irvine and a decade of working in consulting, tech, and wellness, Amy took the leap and started Paru in 2017. The idea quickly grew from a pop-up with tea educational workshops to a full-time business operating both in-store and online. In addition to leading the team, Amy serves as a primary tea educator, buyer, and master blender. She enjoys working with her hands and creating nostalgia-inspired teas like their blue chamomile and pandan waffle. I'm so excited to have Amy back on. I believe that the sense of smell is one of those things that might go unnoticed, and Amy uses it every day as inspiration when she's blending her teas. So welcome to this episode, and I hope you find it inspiring. You're listening to the Holistic Interior Design Business Podcast. This is a podcast that guides you as a new or inspiring independent interior designer navigating your entrepreneurial path. Here, with my over 20 years experience, I will share my holistic approach to design with intention and ancient practices, including feng shui, all incorporating mind, body, and spirit into my design projects. You will also learn from seasoned interior designers as they give strategies and insight of how they built their businesses and continue to work in the field. Together, we will discover supportive trade partners, new ideas, creatives, and inspiring artists from around the world. I am your host, Rachel Lorraine Crawford. Hello. We're continuing our special edition San Diego Design Week last of episodes. And today I have Amy from Paru Tea. We are going to dive into the sense of smell. Welcome back, Amy.
Thank you so much for having me back, Rachel. I'm super excited to talk to you this morning.
Yeah, so you're the first one to come back on a second episode.
Oh my gosh, even better.
Which is so cool. Amy was on episode 4 where we talked about the ritual of tea. So if you haven't heard that episode, I encourage you to go back and listen to Amy's story and how she got into this tea world, which is really, really fascinating. So before we start, I'm going to go ahead and just set our space. I'm going to ring our bell. Just connecting us to the present moment. Connecting to our bodies and our breath. And I'm going to light our candle, connecting with that fire element that I love so much. Connecting with connection and creativity. Also, when I just invoke that notion of smell, I feel like that's one of those senses that kind of gets lost or doesn't really get so much appreciated until it really affects us. Then we're like, ooh, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or the opposite way. It's like it almost has to be very dramatic in order for us to kind of remember how important smell is. So yeah, Amy, I would love to ask you what you're nourishing yourself with, because I know you always have beautiful things that you're drinking, and if you've got anything this morning, I'd love to know what you're enjoying.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm kind of going to my cup of each morning. I love to do like a nice black tea. So I'm doing this wonderful tea from Thailand, it's our Chiang Rai Black. So it just has like a really nice waking up factor of easing into the morning. Sundays are kind of like my Fridays, so it's one of my favorite days of the week now. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, Friday's my favorite day, so that would make sense that if it's your Friday.
What are you drinking today?
I've got your honey orchid.
Oh my gosh, that's my favorite tea of all time.
Is it?
Yeah. How funny.
It was in my subscription box.
Oh my gosh, how funny that you picked that for our podcast. Yeah, because whenever we do tea tastings, I always ask our guests if they were to pick one tea to take to a deserted island, what tea would they pick? And it's just such a fun question. And then that actually would be my tea.
That's awesome. That's so great. Yeah, I don't know if I had it before. This is the first time I tried it. And I was this morning I was just going through all my teas, and I opened up one of the boxes, and I was like, oh, this sounds really good.
It's meant to be.
It is.
Nothing's a coincidence.
Can you share with us? Yeah, can you share with us a little bit about it?
Yeah, absolutely. This is actually one of the first teas that I've sourced when I was first learning about. Actually, this is actually perfect to talk a little about aroma and smell, because sometimes when you're smelling dry leaf in tea, it's a little bit harder to pick up the sense of a tea unless they're artificially scented. Yeah, if they have a coat of something. So if there's a very highly scented tea, oftentimes that could be something that's a preservative that's added. But the honey orchid really stood out to me years ago, because I was like, wow, I can't believe there's nothing else in the leaf. So it's just very a nice roasted, almost like a stone fruit kind of note in it. And then once you just kind of actually start steeping it, even more the aroma comes out of it. And then whenever I smell the tea, actually it just reminds me of the earlier days of me drinking the tea, and just kind of I guess also starting officially my business too. So
Paru, my gosh,
so it's a really nostalgic tea of just being able to learn more about this type of oolong tea. So it's a really special tea to me.
Yeah, I think it was the name also just really struck out to me, honey orchid, and I was just like, oh, that just sounds really pretty and has a nice ring to it. And so I was like, oh, this sounds perfect.
Yeah, it's super exciting.
So let's pull a card. I've got my tried and true tarot deck that I bring to, I think I probably bring this to every time I come and see you.
It's always a good day when you bring it out.
Yeah. All right, let's see what we got for today. Oh, we got the Nine of Swords. This is that card of stress and anxiety. And, not that we have to necessarily be stressed or going through this hard time, but, people are, and maybe this is a good cue to ask, if somebody is going through a hardship or stress, do you have anything that you might recommend tea-wise to kind of help with that mind space of maybe playing the same thing over again, or waking up in the middle of the night? The card shows here somebody in the middle of the night kind of waking up either after a nightmare or just, daily stress.
Yeah. Actually, I think, a lot of individuals that visit Paru sometimes will come in and ask us for, a tea that will help soothe or relax. And We create all of our herbal tea blends there in house. So we have quite a selection of like different teas that I've made for people that are kind of shying away from coffee or different like types of caffeine. So, I mean, I think a tea that well that we all love is our blue chamomile tea. Even the color blue and the smell of chamomile and lavender and rose, I think kind of evoke this a little bit more like calming properties. Everyone's bodies are a little bit different too, but I know like recently too, since we also ship things like online, especially during COVID, a lot of times people are like sending boxes or ordering tea just to kind of have like a nourishing element. Unfortunately, if like individuals have like their mothers have recently passed away, and that's something that's something that they've done with them together. And I think having like the monthly subscription box too, of just having the teas, having like a regular ritual thing to drink every day, it just provides that, I guess, like internal comfort too. I mean, just having something warm, I think, like in the morning or like before you go to bed, it's I think it's really, really helpful to ease. Just kind of ease anything that's going away. I think that's helpful for I think probably ourselves as like entrepreneurs and business owners. There's a million things going on each day, but if you kind of sit down and make yourself a cup of tea, it helps to ground a little bit, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think just even creating that ritual in the evening of calming down and bringing yourself into a space. I feel like if we kind of rush to bed or we've got all these things happening just before bed, then it kind of continues on into our sleep. And I'm definitely guilty of that. Even just last night, I woke up in the middle of the night at 3:00 and I'm like, awake, thinking about all the things that I have to do. So,
oh my gosh. Maybe that's that's
my card.
No, that actually happens to me too. I mean, it's been like a really big week of shifting schedules and stuff. So I think it's just very natural if you're if your own business as like entrepreneur. I think it's like you're at the end responsible for yourself and like worrying about things, right? So I think that's very
No, I'm definitely going to I'm glad that came up, because I'm like, okay, I'm going to create a ritual tonight with your blue chamomile, because I have so much of it and it's my favorite. And and I think I'm going to share that with Tyson and the boys, and we're going to have that tea ritual tonight. I think that's going to be really special.
Yeah, that's super sweet.
Especially it's Sunday and tomorrow starts, the work week, the school day.
Actually, you drink tea like during the podcast and stuff. Like, besides like helping and shutting down like the time for that, has it kind of been like a little bit more comforting for you too?
Yeah, I have to have something definitely in the morning to kind of connect me with my day. And a lot of times I'll do tea after I do coffee. So like I'll start with a shot of espresso with like some mushroom mocha, and then my second. Yeah, it's really delicious. My second, and I'll have to bring in samples of it from Fun Earth Co., which has been really, really wonderful. And because I feel like that really has some focus for me. And then on my second shot of comfort is through your tea. So I'll bring that in. And I'm like wanting to connect there. So yeah, it's really special. And I always, when I'm preparing the tea, it's a lot more mindful, right? So it's like, I get the water, do the whole thing. And your teas are loose leaf, so it's like you really get to see the plant and
start connecting with it a little bit more.
Yeah, and I use your teapots that are clear so that I can see everything, and it's really, really special. So, Amy, I wanted to ask. I know we asked before on episode 4, like what's home to you, and I like to ask that again. Like, what's home for you at this point? Like, what does that feel like?
People have probably moved. Many times during this year, but I think home is still like my home. Home is like, where I live now. It feels like I still look forward to coming home like each day, and obviously with Flani, my wife, and our 2 dogs. I think just having us together at the end of the night is still my home together, and be able to like unwind and just have a nice like conversation with each other after a long work day. I think that's still really special to me.
Awesome.
Wherever we
go,
in
the same place.
Yes, we're in the same place that you helped clear our house with. So
Yeah.
Although
Oh,
I
so
think
good.
I haven't given, I have to make more time for our deck too. We got some patio
Oh, yeah.
furniture from last time I think you came, but yeah, you have to come over again. We can
Yeah.
invite Charlene and stuff together.
Oh, we should. We should do tarot and tea.
Yeah, yeah, we'll do.
And we can just
Usually,
play.
yeah, if you're like not busy on Sundays, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah. We'll do it on a Sunday. That'd be great. I'll bring some cards and we'll just play and hang out.
Yeah, yeah.
That sounds awesome. I love it. So I want to get back to smell and inspiration.
Mhm.
And you have some, teas that are just pure, which is one ingredient, that one leaf. But you also have these beautiful blends. And I would love to know, like, what inspires that? How does that come to be? And how do you create these creations that
Yeah.
you're putting smells and tastes together?
Yeah, creating blends is probably I feel like where I mostly come alive in my creative aspect of, energy. I'll always have a library of like different dried ingredients that if I have an idea with, I'll kind of like put it on the shelf. And then if like I'm traveling or going out or something and I see like a certain ingredient or find an ingredient interesting, I'll kind of like write it down in like my little notebook and
Okay.
kind of reference it later. But most of it also comes from like if I'm nostalgic about something, and I think smell is actually the strongest sensory in a way where it typically doesn't lie to you. For example, I know I feel so lucky to actually have the sensory experience, because like sometimes if you're looking at something, it could be like an optical illusion. It's like, oh, is it true?
Yeah.
Is it that? If you're smelling something, you can smell something kind of like something that's gone bad, but then you can smell something that's, it's actually like a really pleasant smell. So it can kind of deceive within the kind of like good and evil, like kind of like sensory experiences. So when I'm smelling something, I can smell something that might complement each other with like two different ingredients without it kind of being overbearing with one another, and kind of making a good tea blend. I kind of start thinking of almost how you smell like a perfume. Like you have your base note, your middle note, and your top note. So when you have like your base note, that's kind of like the foundation of what you want your tea to smell like or taste like. And then when you start layering it on top of each other, you want to make sure that each ingredient can have like a clear note of, I could be smelling roses in this blend, but it's also could be a little bit of lavender. But in the end, the profile of the tea might taste a little bit more dominant of like lavender, because sometimes like dried herbs, one can smell a little bit more like than the other. So you just kind of have to be mindful of that blending. But I think when you like smell a tea and you've drunk it like when you're even younger, it can really take you back to a certain point in the memory, even if you haven't tried it before. I think one of the strongest like emotions I had in one of our tea blends, it's sort of like pandan waffle. And that was a tea blend that I created with the combination of pandan and coconut, which is in a lot of Southeast Asian cuisine, of kind of like a dessert, like it's in like cakes, it's in like waffles, it's in like a little bake like mochi goods. And that takes me back to when my mom used to take me to like a bakery, like a small like Vietnamese bakery, and then it would be my favorite ritual every weekend, because she was like, okay, you can pick out like a dessert, and then I would just kind of go to the same dessert, and just like the bake shop just smelled throughout the store of like pandan
so
and
good.
coconut, and that just like made me happy and think of like, when you're a little bit more carefree and you're kind of tapping into the childlike sensory experience. And that's kind of like, I would say, like a very like strong aromatic smell that could take me back to like happier memories too. So yeah, that was like really fun one to recreate too. And a lot of customers have tried it, and they have like similar but like different memories of their mom serving it to
Funny.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful thing, I think, when we can like share like very strong memories through just like the nose or like the aroma of
Yeah.
things.
I mean, you just saying that kind of took me back to a bakery that we used to walk to when I was little, and we would go and get like a donut on Sunday, and just like, opening that up and smelling that and the sugar and all the other things.
Oh
Like,
yes.
yeah, like that.
Yeah,
So
it's just so
good.
like nostalgic, I think.
Yeah. Oh, I love that you painted that memory. So you spoke a little bit about base, middle, and top notes. So are you starting, like, what is your process? Do you start with the base note, or are you just kind of bringing things together and deciding what goes where, or what does that process look like?
Yeah. I think it could depend on if I have a idea of what the end result of the blend that I want it to be. But typically, if it kind of goes through the way I want it, I would have my notebook already, and then you start like sketching just like different ideas and ingredients together.
Okay.
And that kind of helps narrow down a little bit of like the amount of different tea blends that I have to try. Almost like, if you're like
Okay.
being a designer, you just kind of know
Yeah.
maybe how the room might look, right? Before like ordering a
Yeah.
bunch of things. So I would kind of like start with a little bit of a sketchbook, and besides like kind of like seeing like how like the aroma might smell all together, I would also consider the different size and the pieces of the different teas and maybe like the dried herbs that would go into it too, because the different shapes of the tea could also make it become deblended. So if if like a small coconut piece is too small compared to the size of like the down leaf or something, it could kind of become disconnected. So the teas, the teas won't smell or taste, I guess, correctly at the end.
Yeah.
So I would think you have to kind of consider what it would look like too in the first kind of drafts or the sketches.
Okay.
And then if I want the tea blend to taste, have a certain taste at the end, I actually would start, writing kind of like the base note of it. But if I wanted to kind of play around with a subtle note, that I think I would actually do the reverse too. So it's kind of fun because it's like dependent on what kind of tea it is. But if at the end when you're drinking the tea and you're feeling like, oh, this tastes like so many different things, but you can't taste one thing, that's like not a good tea blend.
Okay.
It has to be very clear of like, ooh, I do taste like the tea in this, but maybe after I breathe out, I'll taste a hint of like the orchid, or I'll taste a hint of like the little jasmine note. So I think you kind of have to pick, even if you have to take a little bit to kind of pick out the notes, like you have to taste every single ingredient in the tea blend clearly.
Yeah. So how long do you think your process is once you kind of have the inspiration of a type of tea that you're wanting to create? The feeling you want to invoke, the smells that you want to bring forward. Like, how long is that process between you kind of first writing down the ingredients, starting to blend, play, drink, and then get to the final sort of destination? What do you think of that? And I'm sure it changes from like tea to tea, but
that's great. I think probably about maybe 3 weeks.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, if I'm like not interrupted into things, but if I'm working on it maybe 1 or 2 times like a week. But sometimes you also have to kind of forget it a little bit and then go back to how it tastes, or if you think like the idea is good. But now it was actually a little bit easier in the beginning to like create like different blends, but now we have probably over like 20 different tea blends that we have on the shelves here. So I have to consider the different, like, I don't want to create a tea blend that's like too much the same of our current collection.
Right.
So I have like special like seasonal things that I do now. So if it's really taking off with our current customers, then it might stay on the shelf. But it's
Got it.
yeah, but I have to be a little bit more stricter with myself as well. Like we're growing, I was like, I had yeah, so many different ideas, but I think it's very important for me to also to play too with like the different the different herbs that we have, and just kind of like share it together. So
Yeah.
that's probably one of my fun parts of things. I mean, I started with only like 3 teas like 5 years ago, and now we have over like
Oh my God.
60. Yeah, so it's been really cool.
Wow. Okay, so with that many teas, do you have like a steady rotation, and then like what you were saying with seasonal, like
Mhm.
maybe taking out what's happening in the spring and bringing into the summer, and how many teas are in like one season,
Ooh, that's a
do
great
you think?
question too. So I
I know I'm
think,
asking you like a lot of numbers.
oh no, that's great because we actually just released our spring summer collection, which actually that reminds me, I'll have to send you our lotus flower tea. That one is a symbolism of like new beginnings,
Oh
yes,
my gosh,
yeah,
that's beautiful.
new beginnings and harmony too. But I would say probably about 6 to 8 teas each season. So we have our biggest
Okay.
release in spring, summer, because spring is kind of like the wonderful times of like new teas coming, and then kind of
Mm,
trickles into summer, and then
okay.
winter and fall and winter are kind of similar too. We'll have a little bit more like darker teas that will come out and more
Got it.
spiced teas. So really, the seasonality is also very important with teas too. I think here in the U.S., it's like, well, especially in California, we have like kind of like
Yeah.
one summertime season in some ways. It gets a little cooler in the fall, so I think,
Yeah.
I mean, outside the States, I think especially like in Japan, Vietnam, I think you can definitely see the seasons change a little bit
Mm,
more. And I think at least like on the East Coast, you can see the leaves change
yeah.
on the trees. So I
San
think here,
Diego, not so much.
yeah, here I think we have to kind of recreate that experience through the selection of teas to kind of, yeah, to really celebrate, Mother Nature and
hmm
her changing into like the different seasons that are so different,
Yeah.
so beautiful.
Yeah. And talk about like, you can always kind of feel that change in the air, even though it might not be very dramatic. But I think also, connecting with these smells and the taste of tea and incorporating them into the season helps just our bodies and our minds kind of
Hmm.
shift with Mother Earth, and knowing those seasons of being expansive and bright, and being seen to, kind of coming within and going through renewal and rest and rejuvenation and all of that.
Yeah, yeah.
Really, really important. So is there a particular way that one should be smelling the tea or tasting the tea? Like, is there a process that you can maybe share with us on how to fully experience what you've created? Because you put so much time and intention
Hmm.
into it, and to be able to honor that, I think would be really, really cool to
Yeah.
learn about.
Oh, thank you for asking that. So, usually with when I like do tea tastings, I think it's important to actually have a designated bowl or little tray to actually pour your tea or place your tea
Mm,
on it, and just to show even yourself if you're the only one drinking it. It's kind of nice to take a
yeah,
moment to see the dry leaf beforehand to just kind of observe it, especially if it's a blended tea. There might be like different like pops of color that you can kind of enjoy, kind of that visual experience, and also just kind of like smell it dried first and see what scent
yeah.
like you pick up. And then when you actually are brewing the tea, I would say actually if you I don't have my teapot here, but when you're smelling your teapot after you pour your steeped water out, you kind of lift
Uh-huh.
the lid of the tea and smell it that way
Oh, yeah.
instead of directly too.
Oh, I
So
have
then you
one.
have a little bit
This
more
one.
air. Yeah. So kind of the aroma travels up to the lid, so then you kind
Got
of
it.
like smell it a little bit more, especially when it's a little bit hot too. And then the last thing is like when you actually finish your cup of tea too, without the water, you can smell the empty cup. And usually,
Mm,
if it's like a really nice, long-lasting tea, you kind of appreciate the smell after it's left the cup too. So, yeah, that's kind of like my favorite. Yeah, maybe some people don't think about it too much on how to smell the tea. You're always smelling things like
yeah.
directly, but sometimes if the if you put your nose into something so directly, it could be overwhelming. So your nose
Got
is
it.
kind of putting up a defense too, or just like, ooh, that's like a
Got
lot
it.
of
Okay.
smells, and you start getting kind of sensitive to it. So those are kind of like just like easy ways to kind of really appreciate the lingering smells like too for the tea.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So I'm curious, in your subscription boxes, because I get one of those every month, or how are you inspired to combine the different teas that are going into those?
Oh yeah, that's actually a really cool question too, because it's kind of similar to what I mentioned about the seasonalities of the tea.
Yeah.
So we actually our team like takes a lot of time to think about each and every single month, and then we're kind of like brainstorming. Oh, so what is this like month of May? What are everyone like in the mood for? May might be a time of like we're
Yeah.
celebrating, if we have mother-like figures in our life. Is it something kind of some people might need a little bit more comfort in the box, or we're thinking about May, how like it's going into the spring season, kind of leaving a little bit like the winter behind. So we kind of think about it still in seasonalities, but a little bit more defined, because each month might be a little bit more different. So yeah, we just started thinking about September and October, and then probably till the rest of the month. So those are fun months, because it's kind of going now, changing to the fall. So you might see like a little bit more, kind of like more a little bit gradually doing a little bit more darker and bolder flavors going into kind of like the more holiday season. So that's always kind of like a fun one to like come up with. If you really think about like the overall month of things, you're like really surprised how much each month, like there are so many things like going on too. So just thinking about what teas to drink each month too, just as a whole, because I don't know if people think about that. What tea am I going to drink like this month? It's just kind of surprising how many things how many things are going on like that month, and thinking about again like, it's going to be a cooler month. So yeah, it's really fun to put together.
Yeah. So when this airs, it's going to be Design Week. So it's the tail end, the third week in September. So October is going to be right around the corner. Have you guys started thinking about what's going in October? Or is that still a little bit too early? I'm wondering if you can give us a preview.
Oh yeah. So October is a fun box, because it is definitely crossing over to with like November and December. So with October, we think of a lot of I would say like fall flavors. So we're thinking a little bit more about like deeper, darker flavors that might touch into like more of the like the spice like flavors. So October's box is actually one of my exciting boxes that we'll preview, because I think for the first time we're including one of my favorite teas, like this like pu'er tea, which is like an aged fermented tea, but it's really great for like I said like medicinal like health too, because
a lot
of times when you're drinking it, it just has like this really soothing property, and usually it comes from like very like maybe like 300 year old like tree, so you really taste like the age of like Mother Nature, which is kind of like that nice like let's say sweet dirt, like in the best way, but very like nostalgic, but you'll feel like so good like after you drink it. And I think like anyone seeking kind of like that comfort, or it's actually a lower caffeinated tea too, so a lot of people drink it before to just kind of like ease into it and hopefully not wake up at 3 a.m. in the middle of the night. It's actually called it's a wild shoe for one of the teas that we're highlighting in the box. That like a fun little name for even October. We're celebrating like Halloween. It's a Shoeloween. Shoeloween tea in there.
How cute! And then can people purchase the tea that's in the box separately? Like if there's one tea that they just absolutely fall in love with, can they buy that outside of the box, or does it only come like within that subscription?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like each and every single tea that we include in the subscription box is available just as a regular tea, and that's kind of like actually the best way to do what you're with the subscription box, because it's like you have a little rotation of variety, and
Hmm.
you start like drinking different teas that you might not ever have like picked up, right? So it kind of pushes you to be like, ooh, I want to kind of want to finish this month's box, and then some teas that you feel like, ooh, actually I'm starting to really like these like oolong teas. And I feel like the success of the subscription box is just like when you're like finally finished with it, you're like, okay, I feel confident in my tea choices now, because I tried probably like, over 50, 60 teas this year from Paru, and I know exactly what I like. And then you can kind of venture off and just being, like that expert tea drinker.
Mm-hmm.
Are you learning a little bit more about yourself too? About the teas that you like?
A little bit. I'm like, I'm very indecisive. So I love that you like curate the teas that are coming. Yeah, that you pick the teas, so I don't have to spend any brain power like trying to figure that out. Yeah, and it's just about, for me, it's like I will, and I love that you have the name and you also have the description. You have everything on here. I mean, it's very thought out. Like how long it takes to steep, what's the temperature, all that stuff. But I'll read the description and or just the name. Like I said, today was just the name of it that inspired me.
Yeah.
But I'll read the description, and I'm also looking at the caffeine level to make sure that I'm in alignment. Like that's one of the number one things I'm looking at. And I love that you have that on there. So it's like, okay, we've got 2 out of the 3 dots are caffeine, like what time of day is this?
Yeah. And you're like, so like on the go. So I feel like just having those things, you're like, boom, 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 right? Like it doesn't feel so overwhelming. Yeah. It doesn't feel so overwhelming.
No, the simplicity of it. Like, I mean, you nail everything with your marketing and your branding and all that. It's very beautiful, and I'm very, an aesthetic person. But you make it super easy.
Oh, thank you, Rachel.
Yeah, of course. You gave me, I don't remember when it was, but it was probably a couple times past. And the tea, I think it was Witch's Broom.
Oh, yes.
And so that always reminds me of October. Can you share with us what that is and the process, and how do you enjoy that, and just kind of give us a rundown?
So the Witch's Brew is actually something really creative. Like one of our tea partners is from Vietnam. His name is Lau, and he's like a younger tea farmer, so he's like very experimental in like different teas that he does, which is really cool, because sometimes like before, teas have tea production have existed like for centuries, and now we kind of see like these new age like tea farmers like being able to do a little bit more actually avant-garde things of being able to process the teas. And he came up with this idea that with the Witch's Brew, it's just oftentimes like when teas are processed, the leaves can be crushed, and the way to kind of preserve kind of like that leaf is actually to just like wrap it around into like these bundles, and when you're doing like a little bit like of the longer leaf, you get a little bit more of like a little bit more of like a longer aromatic experience, a little bit more like taste on the tongue. So the way you kind of enjoy the Witch's Broom, it's actually a pu'er tea that I similarly that I've mentioned, but just a different variation of it. So with that like pu'er tea, it does have like, I would say like just really I'll say magical properties in a way, because like you know, you're tasting these like really special like high mountain teas where the land is like untouched, because it's very difficult to get into like the different wild like forests in Vietnam. Even just like by car, sometimes there are just like no roads to get up there, so you just kind of have to like live in the mountains too. So Lau and his village people and his friends there, they'll come around the mountain and pick like these different teas, and they're like, sending me pictures oftentimes when they come. It's when they're climbing on top of these trees, and this is like where just like kind of like the purest tea leaves are formed. And so he'll gather a bunch of that and then wrap it around kind of like the to what it looks like a little bit of a witch's broom, or like a kind of like almost like a sage. And then the way you do it is just almost like when you're like kind of boiling pasta, you just kind of break it up a little bit. It looks like it won't fit in your teapot, but then once you pour like hot water over it, it just kind of melts into it. And then what you kind of get now is just like this like long, full, like beautiful leaf in your teapot, and you literally can steep it over like 18, 20 times or like all day, and
Oh my
more
gosh.
like things will get released from it. So it's a really, I would say, very just like strong like medicinal tea. And um, I think nowadays, if we want to, protect our immune system, it's just like, yeah, I think it just has like these, this wonderful elements of like this old Mother Nature of like how many centuries of years they've absorbed all this energy, like from
So
everything. That's
cool.
I think is really special.
Oh, that's so rad. And
Yeah.
do you have that tea year round, or is it a seasonal thing, or?
Yeah. So it was a seasonal tea, but we have like we all will order like small batches of it. So when it kind of
Got
like
it.
runs out, we might not have it back again. So but I think we still have it like in the shop. So if anyone's just curious to, like, our team is happy to kind of walk them through the process of what
Yeah.
the witch's broom looks like, because I think it's really cool to actually take a look. And that's what's fun about Paru too, is like we just don't have just like the loose leaf tea, we have like the different shapes and sizes too, of having like that having a little bit of a different tea experience of like, I guess, like sharing the way of how teas can be out of the element, especially out of like the tea bag
Hmm.
and then the loose leaf and then the
Yeah.
different like shapes and sizes of the tea. So I think we take a lot of pride in that.
Yeah, it's amazing. And you mentioned this particular farmer, putting this together and creating this beautiful tea. Can you talk to us a little bit about your relationship with these farmers and what that means and
Mhm.
how you've established these relationships? Because I think that's also extremely important with how you guys operate and the people that you're connected with.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we treat our tea partners the same as we treat as like the extension of like the Paru team. I mean, these are um, people that I've worked with as long as we've been in business. They're like just like friends of ours, and I've keep in touch with them like almost like daily, if not like weekly. I think
Hmm.
especially it's almost like a small tea farmer to like small business like support too. I originally, like when I first set out to and start sourcing like for Paru, I really wanted to just kind of like work with like a handful of tea farmers, because I think like as we grew, I wanted them to grow too. So I wanted to like, my goal for Paru is to actually increase our orders each and every year with
Mm,
the farmers that we've worked with like since the beginning. Because
yeah.
oftentimes, like if we're growing, then we start searching for new sources. But for us, it's never really been about like who has like the better price. It's really about who like I really
Yeah.
want to work with. It's really like, can I, as like an entrepreneur, you really choose like who you want to work with, right? So it's
Absolutely.
just kind of
Absolutely.
like,
It's so important.
yeah, as long, I mean, everything else is already kind of difficult, but I think kind of one of the most advantage of creating or being your own boss is being able to work with who you want to work with. So all the suppliers are just like really amazing, wonderful people that that it's that I wanted to create just like a really wonderful like working relationship with. And I think our
Hmm.
focus for this year, besides ordering some of the teas that they have like specialties like with, I've talked to them and have like different meetings of like, okay, what other things do you also grow? For example, the
Mm.
tea that I'm drinking, one of the tea farmers from Chiang Rai in Thailand, her name's Ami, and she also grows like chrysanthemum, like 30
Oh my
kilometers like
gosh.
away from her tea field. And so I was like, oh, that's cool. I've been like using chrysanthemum too, but I would rather make sure that like, oh, we'll start ordering chrysanthemum like from you as well,
Mm.
because like there's like so many different things that are going on um in the gardens too, that I think, wow, that's really cool that you're also growing like, for example, something chrysanthemum that we should use, and it just comes from the same trusted source that we know and love too. So I think it's
Mhm.
really expanding
Mhm.
like the different opportunities with our tea farmers. That's really important. were really important to me.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned that, as you're growing, you're not just looking at like, okay, where can I get the best
Hmm.
price for this
Hmm.
product? You're really connected with the farmers and the people that are growing it, and
Hmm.
the relationships that you've established and the integrity that you bring to, the tea. I mean, you can taste it, you can taste it, you can feel it. It's all infused and with what you guys are doing,
Yeah. Oh,
which
thank
is
you.
really cool.
I was just gonna mention, like, I can't forget the memory of time of this. Also talking about like aroma. I think it was
Yeah.
like one of the last times you were at Paru, La Jolla, where you were burning the tea leaf
Yeah.
in the sensory experience, and then I smelled the scent of my grandfather, and I think that was probably one of the strongest
Yeah.
aromatic or smell experiences that I had. I think like recently too. So I didn't want to forget to mention that because that was like a
Oh,
really
yes.
powerful moment.
Yeah, that was actually one of the things, and I was like, "Oh, would smell," and I had already had you on. I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Like that experience when we did that clearing, and part of like when I'm doing clearings and things, like I will make incense based on different herbs, and a lot of times I'll take like what you had tea there, and I was like, okay, we're gonna make like we made an incense and we totally burnt it, and I remember that memory that came to you and you were just like, whoa.
Mhm.
And, your grandfather coming in and I
Mhm.
was just like, oh my God, so cool.
Yeah, it's I guess to give a little bit of background to your listeners. So my grandfather's
Yeah.
like just quickly, sorry. My grandfather's like
Yeah. No, this
was
is
like
great.
yeah, my grandfather was like an entrepreneur like in the family. So he like did importing and exporting from Japan and Vietnam. So my mom's side of the family, they were like, kind of like their family revolved around the business. So
Yeah.
he had like shops, and he had in Vietnam, he like managed like the whole the factory and different relationships with Japanese like businessmen. So my mom would travel to internationally to Japan, Malaysia, and like Hong Kong and like different places. So growing up, she would just tell me so much about like my grandfather, and obviously when I visited him, I would like sneak in his room, and I was like smell like his suit, and sometimes there's like he'll ask me to like bring like a cigarette, cigarette pack from his like breast
Yeah.
pocket, like in his suit, and he had just had a very like distinct like aroma. And then when I went down to his office, there was just a smell of like these like old filed cabinets, and I would sit on his chair, and I was like, oh my gosh, I want to have like I want to sniff one day. And then it's just like this like leathery old file kind of smell into it, just going down in the basement. And then that was the exact smell that you burned for me, Rachel. And I think the tea that I gave you had none of that.
Yeah, that was the crazy part.
Yeah.
It's like none of the teas had any of that. So but
Uh-huh.
but sometimes our ancestors come to us and they come through smell.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's a way for them to connect with us and to again bring us to that memory and just be like, whoa. So powerful.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. That's an amazing and powerful memory. Thank you so much for
Mhm.
your magic and being able to do what you do too. So that's incredible.
Of course. It's all good stuff. Well, do you have anything else that's coming up that you guys are excited about in your space, or any events or things that you want to share with everybody?
Yeah. I think now we're super excited. I think everyone's kind of going like back to school and everything, but like the fall
Mhm.
time, I think is probably my favorite times for like just to celebrate tea when the weather gets a little bit cooler too. So um kind of leading closer to the holidays and the fall, we're actually going to officially start celebrating and having our 5-year celebration like as a company. So we'll be
Oh, when's the anniversary?
well, the anniversary was this it was actually kind of a little bit past in August, but we kind of
Okay.
put the festivities on hold until like the fall a little bit to have
Got it.
things settle down. So we will can start presuming the 5-year festivities. So hopefully we'll have like small little event gathering, and then we'll have all these like special limited edition teas and products that I think will be really exciting to kind of honor our history of just like what we've kind of accomplished as a company for 5 years. And I think that's kind of important for any small business owner to just kind of celebrate the benchmarks and, and hopefully, more years to come too. So
Absolutely.
I'd love to do something with you too, but we can talk about that later.
Oh, yeah. I'm down.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I'm so down
welcome
for that. So yeah, we can. Wow. Yeah. So, and then how do people find out about these events? Do you have a newsletter or the website or Instagram or all of them?
Yeah. Yes, all of the above. So our website is parutea.com, and then sign up for like that newsletter. Usually we'll send like email like once a month too of like the upcoming events.
Okay.
And then Instagram is just kind of like if you just want tea content and have teas, will announce things on there too, and also kind of sneak peeks of like different new products. I actually recently created a 24K matcha, so I use like small little gold flakes from
oh my god,
from a small family in Japan, where they make small edible gold flakes, and just kind of had like special like visual I was very playful with the matcha. So Rachel, if you come in, I'm happy to share with you.
Heck yeah. I'm gonna be in for sure. That's amazing. And I also just wanted to point out again that if you wanted to get more in depth with Amy's story and how Paru came to be, check out episode 4. And then I also wanted to invite everyone to check out episode 40, because that's where Mickey Iwasaki had his interview, and we spoke a bit about the interior design of Paru, because that in itself is also very magical. And I highly encourage everyone to go to those 2 episodes to find out more. And of course, follow Amy everywhere. We'll put everything in the show notes so you guys can just click and explore.
Thank you so much for having me, Rachel.
Thank you. My God, always a pleasure. And I will be connecting with you on events and other fun things that we're going to be doing.
Yes, please.
You've been listening to the Holistic Interior Design Business Podcast. If it's one that you have been enjoying, please share with anyone else that you think can benefit from this knowledge, and leave us a 5-star review. That helps us get seen and found by other new and aspiring interior designers. And if you're looking for mentorship, I invite you to join our club here at the Design Coven. It's a bridge between school and real life interior design. We get in much deeper there. We have virtual and in-person events, so everyone is welcome. You don't need to have a design degree to be part of it, just an interest in holistic interior design. I also want to thank our editor, Marcy Ferry, and lastly, Kinseth Thibodeau, who is our music composer. Until next time, be well, and we will see each other soon.